Yo, it's me, Mugen. Yeah, I know I look different on TV. Shut up. Anyway, I'm here with Chad and Jeremy. Check out Fusion Haa Podcast. And if you got any dumplings, I'm really hungry.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jeremy One having Fusion Haa Podcast. Last year at 2024's Comicpalooza, Chadrick and myself had an opportunity to moderate a panel, and that panel was the Spy family. We talked to all three members of the Forger family. It was fun. We asked questions, the fans asked questions, they answered them all. Unfortunately, we don't have the video, but we do have the audio. So we hope you like what you listen to, and please like, share, and subscribe, and let us know what you think.
You have tiny little chihuahuas, and I can just see them all going, Mother is being very strange.
Yeah, they roll with it at this point. They're shockingly chill about some of the things that happen when I'm like screaming, because until I got a vocal booth to record in at home, I just had a closet stuffed with like acoustic foam, so the whole household just kind of had to be used to me screaming at any given moment for whatever I was recording. So they're just like, that's fine, Mom does this, it's normal. It's normal.
All right, Alex, what about you?
I've been doing voice acting for about 13 years or so, I would say, at this point. I came from the theater. That's what I've been a professional theater actor for most of my career. When we moved down to the Dallas area, which is where Crunchyroll is, formerly Funimation, I just got really lucky and was able to kind of like start doing small parts until I started getting bigger and bigger parts. But I actually had to leave for a while to go. I was running a theater for a while, which was just too much of it was too many hours to be able to get up to the studio. So I had actually taken myself off of the roster for a couple of years, and I got remarkably lucky to be in the right place at the right time, to know the right people. I got a phone call during the pandemic from Chris George. Chris George is the director of the English dub of Spy Family. He and I have worked together several times over the years on some pretty big projects. He directed me in Psychopaths and Death Parade over a decade ago. So we had a really good working relationship. I got a call out of the blue, and again, I've been out of the game for a couple of years, with Chris saying, hey, we've got this show coming.
Anya, but it's not quite Anya because we get to spend so much time with these characters. We've been so lucky to spend so much time with them, which doesn't usually happen nowadays. Usually it's like, all right, you get 12 episodes and then you're out. But we've gotten so much to do with them that they're so unique now. And so now it's like, oh, the writers are so great. They'll write the big words, but they'll kind of spell it wrong, and we're like, oh, cool, fun. Or if there's a big word and it's not spelled wrong, we'll be like, let's spell it wrong anyways, and then we'll just say it wrong. She wouldn't be able to say that word. And yeah, so now it's like we have like the little tiny lisp that she has, and just kind of her attitude, and that all has been just fine-tuned, where like the first few episodes we would have to really make sure I was staying in that character zone, because it was such a fine line to walk between she's little and she sounds dumb, but we still need to understand what she says because people are going to watch this. They need to know what you're saying. But now I can just do it. Like, we never have to go back and do it because I don't sound enough like the character, because now it's just second nature. So yeah, I would, when I first heard about Spy Family, before the audition went out, I think I had like a friend or two that read like some of the manga, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a good one when it comes out. So I've been like peripherally aware of the property and kind of the gist of it, and I was like, oh, what's this about? And everyone was like, think Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but it's anime and I have a kid. And I went, oh, okay, well, that's easy. So when I got the audition, that was the headspace I was originally in and thinking of, and so I was like, cool. And I took a look at the sides and I went, cool, little kid voice. I can kind of throw one together for small bits, but I don't think I'm going to carry a serious lead anytime soon. I would love to hear your Anya audition. I would think it doesn't exist. Oh, so. I do not. I went, let's make a good impression. Make this director never want to cast me again because I sound completely insane. So I just put all my energy into Lloyd, and but originally I was thinking, so this is anime Angelina Jolie, right? And I started reading some of the lines and going, well, okay, but may I have the honor of taking your life this evening? That sounds like Angelina Jolie, but the rest of this, I'm missing something here. So that was the impetus that actually drove me to go, like, hang on a second, we have a copy of the manga somewhere, because we've accumulated a lot of manga at some point where people are like, oh, you should try this. And you go, cool, I'll buy the first volume. And then ADHD settles in and you go, oh, that's on the shelf somewhere. Maybe I'll get to it. But thankfully we had it. So, times such as these, we had the manga. And I went and read it. And again, Nora's anxiety and her feeling of being like, I don't know, am I good at being a person? Functioning as a human being in society. I don't understand the people around me. I have one thing I'm really good at, and I can do that, but everything else is kind of a mystery. And there was a lot of elements of that where I was like, I was kind of like a gifted and talented kid where that happened a lot for me too, where I was like, I don't know how to be a normal person sometimes. So it was really easy for me to find that and identify that, and then go, oh, this is how I can infuse a lot more dimension into this character and make it feel more breathed in and more whole. And that's kind of usually the key with auditioning, is you do tend to start from an archetype that you're familiar with from the database that you've probably put together, but then you have to figure out what about this makes it unique, and what is the unique thing that I can bring to the character, and what is it about my interpretation that speaks as much truth into this character as possible. And then there's other factors like luck, being in the right place at the right time, sounding good next to your castmates too, because you can have a good audition, but if your voice doesn't match with the other characters, you might not get that character. It has something to do with your acting ability. So being an actor is really fun, because you never know what all coalesces into being the final winning product. But I'm really grateful that I think I got that balance right on this one, at least. And then when we got into the booth, a big thing was that my background is more in video games, and I did a lot of educational narration for a long time and some commercial stuff, but normally I do a lot more like kind of naturalistic reads. So a big part of developing Yor's character once we got in the booth was we basically didn't have to touch any of the like assassin mode stuff, just because that was what I did a lot of with video games, and I was very confident with that. But actually for Yor's anxiety and a lot of the comedy, it was a lot of Chris helping me kind of come out of my shell and giving me the permission, but also some pointers on how to get bigger and funnier and goofier. And I love that, especially in the first 12 episodes, you can really kind of hear Yor as she gets more comfortable with the family. It's simultaneously me getting more comfortable with the character and with the comedy, and the reads get bigger and more confident and a lot more fun. So I love that little through line in the performance too.
You know, Chris just kind of knew I was insane so already. So like he was like, "Yeah, Megan, this is you," and I was like, "Thank you."
In terms of like preparing for a role, I kind of have, I guess, kind of an evolving relationship to the manga. I kind of go back and forth. There's a big part of me that's always felt like you're preparing for a role where there's source material. To be careful about the source material, because you don't know what they're going to lift out and put in the adaptation. And they could leave out enormous plot points that you've already ingested, and then you have to like kind of like reverse engineer stuff. It always gets a little muddy for me. So I did not read ahead here. I relied really heavily on our director Chris in those first couple of sessions to kind of guide me to the sweet spot. Anytime you begin a role that has a long arc, for me, the biggest question off the bat to solve is in terms of size. Like, what kind of universe are we living in terms of humans, the size of human reactions? Are we in a One-Piece universe where everything is turned up to 11 all the time? Or are we in a piece that's a little bit more grounded in our human reality? Lloyd clearly spends most of his time as kind of like the anchor into the real world, I think, for our piece. So that was helpful to learn in those first couple of sessions. But yeah, I think I just, especially with a director that I've worked with a lot, I went in pretty cold, but not nervous, because I knew that we would find our way. And we took a lot of time in those first couple of sessions to make sure we were on the same page. But other than that, I just watched some James Bond movies.
Yeah. That's a good source material. And it sounded like you was already ready for that part, so I just came in. I got it. I'm like, that's how it is.
Yeah, it's kind of nice when you can go in and you have directors, because once you work there, it's a small world, and so it's really nice having the same directors and knowing your director well enough that you're like, I don't need to know nothing, and they're gonna make sure I get there. So they do a lot of heavy lifting, and they put together a giant puzzle piece, because like we all record individually. So like sometimes I go in and I'm the first one to record and I'm recording in a vacuum. Sometimes I'm the last one, or sometimes Alex has already recorded but Natalie hasn't. So like in all these family scenes, it's like just Alex being like, please Anya, no. You know, then Natalie's not there, so I just see Yor going like saying something nice, but she's not there. So yeah, it's nice to have directors that you can trust and rely on, and you know they're gonna not steer you in the wrong direction. So yeah.
Okay. So I gotta ask. So when Spy Family first came out, like the anime, it blew up everywhere. You could not escape it, and that's awesome. It's a great show. What do you guys think attributes to that?
We've had a lot of this conversation where we talk about how I think part of it is like coming out in a time where I feel like, you know, I feel like for that show or a show or a series in particular to kind of blow up, again, it's kind of right place, right time for a show, because it's like, is it filling in a gap? Does something else already exist that is this genre? So that was nice. I feel like there wasn't anything like this airing at that time. And also, the biggest accessibility point is that it's so accessible to all ages. So you can have, I've had like babies and toddlers and children, and also like grandmas and grandpas come up to me and they're like, I watched this show with my grandkids and it's so great. Or they're like, I watched a show with my grandma. and blah blah blah. And so it's just like it's so accessible to so many ages of people, and there's so much that you can love about it. There's just like action, comedy, adventure. There's like all kinds of little.
It checks all the genre.
It checks all the genre boxes. Yeah. So it's that I feel like is a big reason why it's blown up so much, is because so many people can watch it and find something they enjoy in it. Yeah.
It's remarkable the number of people that we have tell us some version of, I've never been able to get X into anime, my mom or my sister or whatever, but this show they love. This show has been, I think, because it has such broad appeal, it's a gateway show into the genre for a lot of people. And so that's been really satisfying. We get a lot of people telling us that they're watching it intergenerationally in their households, which is unique.
For some people, I love when people are like, yeah, we all sit down every week and this is like something we all watch together. We don't watch it separately, like we all watch it together. And I think that's so sweet. So.
But the appeal too, I think, I was thinking about this the other day, is that the three of them at core are so decent. Like they're so, like their cores are so good, and they're not particularly complicated in that way. Like they are all driven by like a desire to be and do good, and so you kind of can't escape like the wholesomeness that is injected into it because of that, which I think is pretty appealing to a lot of folks.
Yeah, I feel like with a lot of other shows, they usually have okay, you're gonna love it, but there's 1,000 episodes. You're gonna love it, but just don't think about these characters. You're gonna love it, but the art sucks. You just gotta get past it, stuff like that.
Or you're gonna love it, but you have to, like, okay, like say, I know a lot of people watch Naruto, but like, think about, I mean, Naruto, we all love Naruto. I feel like everyone is like, yeah, I've watched Naruto, it's great, yeah. Even if you haven't watched all of it, you're like, yeah, it was nice, I watched it. But also I feel like with that, there's something about that where it's like, okay, you have to know about like kind of ninja culture and then be into ninjas, and then also like there's a little bit more world building you have to like buy into and sink your teeth into, and then you're like, yeah, I love this. Whereas like with this, it's like this just seems like a street in a town that anyone could live on, and so there's like it's something.
There's no barrier to entry.
Yeah. Whereas like,
and there's also not the genre expectations too, because like shonen, you kind of have to be like, oh, if I'm watching a shonen show, the first 10 episodes are going to be a lot of world building and a lot of getting used to these characters. And it's going to be kind of awkward while we all kind of feel each other's dynamics out
and the main character is just going to be a loser.
They're about the power system, and then it's got to get turned on its head, and then you got to be like, okay, do I like this? Do I not? Do I vibe with this? And usually like 10 episodes in, you're like, okay, now I got a feeling for what this is. Whereas the Spy Family, it does use a lot of anime tropes and structure and everything, but it feels like there's a little less of that barrier to entry, where especially if you're not familiar with that already and know kind of this is the pathway it's going to follow, it's a little less like, what's happening here?
It's kind of like, oh, a spy organization. Okay, cool. And then they give you little snippets of that. Oh, cool. So she's part of like an assassin organization, and you don't have to know everything about it. So it's like, oh, she just goes to a private school. And I think that's like the most complicated plot point, is learning what the Stella Stars are. And honestly, if that's the most complicated thing about this show, it's really easy to understand. So I think there's that. Like, you don't, and also like, again, I'll just use Naruto as an example, which I love Naruto, don't get me wrong. Like, listen, I got my favorites. That's a whole other topic. You can come ask me at my table. But it's like, you gotta learn all these names, and you have to learn like Neji and Naruto and Sasuke, and there's all these names that it's like, if someone's never watched anime, they're gonna be like, these names sound like gibberish to me. Like, what is happening? And then you've got like Lloyd, Anya, Becky, like easy names to like remember. Yeah, so like for like a Western audience, all of that can also really stick in people's minds, and they're not like, what's that Susuke guy? Like who's that? But yeah, so I feel like there's something in it that was made that is makes it not just popular in Japan, but also just like it's easy for a Western audience to like latch onto and be like, Yes, I can remember. Yeah. And especially people that have never watched anime. So yeah, it's great.
Also, and they're so sick of hearing me say that. I say this at every con.
No, go on.
But I believe that the real secret sauce of this show, the magic of it, is the fact that Anya, despite her superpower, other than that, she's a regular dumb kid. I'm serious. I think that's what makes it special. She's not hyper intelligent, other than the fact that she has this power. She is completely average and normal in almost every way.
And she has no filter, like a real child.
And so that's we've all been a dumb 6-year-old, and many of us know dumb 6-year-olds, and so I think we can all really relate to that.
I met a little girl yesterday cosplaying Anya. She's so cute, and her mom was like, "Oh my god," because she was like, "Yeah, we got the dress," and then I was like, "Oh, look at your shoes, they're so sparkly and they're cute," and she was like, "Yeah, we got them on Amazon," and her mom goes, "You don't have to tell her. You don't have to tell her." She's like, she just tells everyone where we buy everything right now, and she goes, "Well, they might want to buy it too, Mom," and I'm like, that is so perfect, and that is genuinely something Anya would do. Like when she goes, "Yeah, those dogs are ugly. I don't want that dog." It's such a little kid thing.
I got a video from my nieces, and their dad was like playing with the little 3-month-old, and she's just giggling and smiling at the camera. He's like, "Yeah, say dada, say mama," and in the background is the 4-year-old going, "She can't talk yet." She can't talk. You're so stupid, Dad. I love it. So yeah, it is like it's the same. I was like, yeah, Anya. This is just Anya's such an every little kid energy. It's great.
It's funny I say that because I believe that she actually got a little bit more intelligence. I mean, yeah, when it comes like school, book smarts.
She got street smarts. She has street smarts, but she does not have book smarts.
She up there on that street smarts.
I mean, yeah, she's like, I don't know how to read a clock, but like I can ask someone what it says.
I mean, being able to read people's minds probably makes you seem smarter than you actually are.
Well, so like that, you know what I'm saying? Just like the way she formulated plans to help out either Lloyd or even yours, like, man, I would never do that. So it's amazing to me, like her, to me, like she's smart, wise, and like intelligence is like up there.
Yeah, I think she has also a lot of like emotional intelligence too, because she also has like gone through a lot. So she's like, I just want to be accepted, and I don't want to go back to the orphanage again. She's been returned, so I think she inadvertently has a lot of emotional intelligence and is like, I just want to make this whole family work.
Right.
And so that's partly why she doesn't want to tell them that she can read minds, and she's like, I'm not going to tell them about each other because it's cool, but like I just want to keep everything chill because we got a good thing going on here. So yeah, so she's so sweet inadvertently, but then also she's such an angry little child sometimes. Like her golfing on the cruise ship, when she's like, I can't do it. Again, that is another little kid thing, and he's like, just keep going until you can think, yay, you got it in. All right, we gotta go now. It's like such a kid. I do that. Me and my husband played putt-putt, and I'm like, you beat me, and he's like, I'm sorry. I was like, it's not fair. You played golf before. So
You were just getting ready for the ball.
Yeah, I was practicing method acting.
All right, guys, we're going to ask a couple more questions, but if you guys want to ask them anything, you can just line up right here. If you have any questions you want to ask.
We'll try to keep it quick and get through as many as possible. So it might be like one of us answers your question, and then the next person will answer your question.
Before we ask that, so I know this is a podcast panel, but you guys are some My Hero Academia alums.
Oh yeah, we are.
So I have to ask, if there was a quirk that you could have based off your personality, what would you have?
What quirk would you have?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I mean, if we got to do anything, I would really like to have like a floating, flying quirk, I think, or something like that.
That's a good one.
I want to talk to animals.
That's a good one, because my dog drives me crazy. She just barks at me all the time.
And you're like, what do you want? I don't know, I gave you food.
Invisibility has its advantages.
So funny. the thing where like I was like, Dad, you can't be cool, man. Like you can't do this. He goes up to Alex and he asks me, he's like, man, maybe I just didn't talk to Alex enough, but like that sounds nothing like Alex. And I was like, what do you mean? It's him just talking. And then my dad goes up to him and like it's like 10 o'clock in the morning, and he's like, hey, could you like do the voice? You're so embarrassing.
That's very nice, man.
He was very nice. I was like, Dad, you can't just ask that. It's gotta be cool, man. Just do the voice.
We were advocating. We were like, listen, he's my boomer. I'm responsible.
He's my boomer. I take responsibility for him. I brought him on the field trip. So he loved it though. It was great.
All right, come on up.
Hey guys, good to catch you at another convention. Wow. Good to catch you at another convention. Can we talk Code White here? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, so something that I noticed when I was watching the movie is it really does seem like we got to see like new facets of each character in the movie that I thought were super interesting. So like, you know, from Lloyd we see some very ambitious disguises. From Anya we saw like some surprisingly really adult moments. And from Yor we saw jealousy. I was wondering, as like voice actors, how did you feel about like exploring new sides of your character?
No question.
Yeah,
You know, it was fun trying not to poop. When I realized that was my role in the movie, I went, it all tracks. You know, she has a great strength of will, so good for her.
It's very interesting you put it that way. I wasn't thinking about it in those terms, like that they're actually doing new things for the first time. I assume that Lloyd has had to dress up like a lady many times in his life. Yeah, it's just perfected it by now.
He was a very pretty lady.
He was.
I was like,
A
wow.
lot of people got real excited about that one.
I know, they were like, whoa, Lloyd's a woman! I know, he's hot. I mean, look.
Viewership went up.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it reminded me a lot of like when Fiona first came into the picture. So go figure, it would be Fiona throwing a wrench.
I know.
So yeah, so I think it was just. I think it was stuff we had already started to explore, but then the movie was like, but what if we dialed it up to 11 and just let that play out like a, you know, demented music box? So for me, that was kind of my interpretation of it. Was I was like, okay, I think this is stuff we've started to address, but they're like, this is a movie, we gotta have the stakes even higher. Let's go.
But they're still being so careful, like even the jealousy, like
Yeah.
it never tips into I have these feelings because I have feelings for Lloyd. It's just I don't like the way this feels because I'm supposed to play this role, not this other lady. Like they're being they're holding on so tight.
They really, it really shows that they either, because it seems like my understanding was that the mangaka was responsible for creating the storyline and kind of what was going on. So you seem to really understand just that perfect balance of like the movie universe kind of has to be its own thing, but it still has to kind of exist within the canon, so we can't do too much, but also we still want to make sure everything people enjoy is still in there. So it did really good of acknowledging kind of the playing off of like Yor's emotional stunted growth, that she doesn't know what feelings are yet, or like what feelings are associated with Pledge. She's just like, oh, this is just a thing everybody feels. This is normal.
Everyone just jumps in a plane and goes after their fake husband and child. It's fine.
Comedy.
How'd you get here, Yor? I just jumped in the plane. Oh, okay.
All right, thank you. All right, next up. Good one.
I'll ask one. So sitting on Code White, looking at the more technical side, what was it like going from the week-to-week basis that we see in Crunchyroll to a full movie production? What was that like? Like just.
You know, for me, it felt basically like recording a long episode of Spy Family. I mean, typically for an episode, I'll get called in for maybe an average of like maybe 3 or 4 hours.
You think a lot, so yeah.
That's true. I do a lot of monologuing.
Yeah.
But this one, I think we were all in there for maybe 12 or 13, maybe 15 hours.
Yeah, I mean, we're all pretty fast, but the booking time was 16 hours
16.
for each of us. We probably finished a little under that because we're doing at this point, but yeah.
notice a difference in feel, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I just made more stupid noises.
Right.
I got laryngitis at the end.
Yes. But you still, and you were like, you were so sad. You were so like despondent. You were like, Megan, this is not my best work. And then I'm like sitting there at the premiere going, you sound so awesome, Natalie. Like she looked at me, she went, this is where the laryngitis kicked in. And I'm like, well, I don't hear it, so you sound awesome.
Chris was really good about directing the deliveries around where my voice kept breaking.
Yeah.
Yours sits like right around where my voice starts transitioning, and I did a con, and then the Sunday of the con, it was a 4-day con.
Oh, yeah, it was
And
rough.
I went to like emote, and I reached for like a higher point in my range, and then nothing came out, and I just went, I'm in so much trouble. So much trouble. And it didn't come back for 2 weeks, and that's where whenever she gets really nervous, it's up there. I couldn't do any of that. So, and then, towards the end of the movie, I had to do a lot of, Anya, where are you? And then all that's gone, so.
Well, you sounded great.
Thank you. That was probably the most technical challenge part of it for me.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Hello. Good to see you guys again. I have more of a career-based question for you guys. Kind of switching gears from Code White. Code White was a freaking blast, by the way. I loved it so much. I've been a sports announcer for 9 years, and I find myself going back and looking at, say, some previous footage from a race that I was at 6 months to a year ago, and I'm like, man, I could have been better here, or I could have been better there, so on. There's a ton of criticisms that I have, because there's sometimes that I'm in front of a microphone in front of 40,000 people for 10 hours. So, looking back on previous experiences that you have, are there any that you've been critical in, or that you wish you could have done any better?
Oh, I mean, all of them.
Yeah.
I think,
All of it.
no, I'm serious. I think it's really hard to listen to something that you've done years out and go, man, I really just, that's
Nailed that.
Nailed it. No, I'd love a chance to re-record every line I've ever done.
Yeah, because I feel like we're constantly growing as people and actors, and you learn things even when you don't realize you're learning things when you're just working. And so there's stuff where I listen back to, especially because there's a few shows that they won't die. They keep coming back, and I started recording them when I basically started, and it's just been oh, here's season 5. And I was like, when does this end? How much longer can we go on with this? But I get to come in and do that, and sometimes they're okay, well here's a reference from 8 years ago, and I'm please, my ears are bleeding. I don't want to listen to it. La 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 la. So yeah, it's crazy because you do listen to those references, and you're like, why did I sound like that? And so yeah, there's a lot of just going back and man, I wish I knew what I knew now, but it's a hindsight's 2020 kind of thing. Where it's it's not that you did a bad job. If you did a bad job, they wouldn't have had you doing the job. But yeah, it's just we're so critical because we're just we're always learning and we always want to do better. So
there's an element too that in many ways often you really, once you get to this stage, you're just going in to do your bits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't get a script beforehand or anything like that. And so I often will hear something I've done in the past and go, now that I have a sense of what this whole picture is, I have a greater understanding of what this should have been, and kind of wishing I had all of that knowledge going in. That kind of thing. Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
All right, guys. You have time for one more question? Two or three? Okay, we'll take time. Appreciate it.
Hi. What do you think an interaction between your characters in Spy Family and My Hero would be like?
My hero?
Yeah.
Oh, interactions.
My two dudes would get along great.
Yeah, they would. They wouldn't talk. They'd be like,
They wouldn't talk much. They'd give each other knowing nods, and then be cool.
Yeah, and then they'd leave. I don't know. Both of my characters are just in different ways. But they're both crazy. I think Anya would think it's cool that La Brava's a hacker. her so she could, I don't know, she'd bug La Bravo incessantly. You know,
Teach me your ways.
teach me your ways. And like no, give her like a Fisher Price piano or a Fisher Price tablet.
The parents that think that like when they're playing video games, they give the kid the
The unplugged controller. Yeah, like God, you're doing so great. Look at you go. You are awesome.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah.
I like to think that Yor and Cassie would work out together and be like, I can get stronger than you, I'm stronger than you, and then just be like gym buddies, like
Workout friends.
Yeah, workout
See, gym buddies, awesome.
I love it.
Cassie just bench presses.
Good, thank you.
Your bench press.
More bench presses. Even better.
You see the best of us?
Can you do the voices?
May I have the honor of taking your life this evening?
There's that sinking feeling again.
Look, I can see her boobies! I know, and then my dad, that didn't sound like Alex at all!
For me, it's just Tuesday.
Yeah. My dad is ridiculous.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for coming out. You guys give them a round of applause. Don't be them at their table. All right, guys. Let's go to comment.